If you think student dorm ghost story are just myths, then listen to this one. This true story is shared by a dorm supervisor. Our story revolves around Mrs. Lee. She is the girl dorm's supervisor of a local high school. Her daily duties include routine dorm inspections, keeping track of students, and ensuring their safety and disciplines. Just shortly after starting her job, Mrs. Lee heard some unsettling rumors about the room 407. Students always claim to hear strange noises and sometimes even faint singing sounds at night. But all the girls lived in the room 407 insisted they had never sang and also had never heard such strange voices. Therefore, Mrs. Lee dismissed it at first as a prank between students. One night, around 7 p.m., while all the students were in their evening classes, Mrs. Lee began her regular inspection. The dorm had 6 floors in total. The first floor was unoccupied, so she usually started from the second floor, then all the way up. As she reached to the 4th floor, she then heard faint whispers, so she followed that sound and stopped in front of the room 407. She knocked twice, and the whisper stopped immediately. Thinking it must be students skipping class, she used the key to unlock the door. Inside, it was pitch black, and when she turned on the lights, all the beds were vacant, and also the room was empty. She then recalled the rumors about the room 407 and felt a sudden unease. Then there are noises came from the bathroom, growing more anxious for her. So she approached the bathroom door, knocked, but there was no response. Gathering all her courage, she pushed the door open and then saw a girl. She was holding her phone and also looked terrified. It turned out the girl was indeed skipping classes and hiding in the bathroom making phone calls. Mrs. Lee then later felt a bit foolish for her earlier fear, scolded the girl before sending her back to class, also warning her not to sing in the room at night. The girl didn't say anything about it and quickly left for class. A few days later, during evening classes, Mrs. Lee completed her inspections and returned to her room on the 2nd floor to rest. Suddenly, she heard someone singing from upstairs. Following the sound, she found herself back at the room 407. The singing continued, but it was unclear and muffled. She was thinking it must be that girl from last time, skipping classes again. So she immediately tried to unlock the door. But it wouldn't budge. She felt strange, since the student dorm doors couldn't be locked from the inside. So she knocked, saying that, "Hey, I know you are inside. Open up." Then the singing stopped, followed by a girl's voice coming from the inside. Said that, "Mrs. Lee, I feel sad." At this moment, Mrs. Lee thought her attitude may be a little bit strong, so softening, she responded, "Even though you are sad, but you can't skip class, open the door and talk to me. Maybe I can help you." But there was no more response. After a moment of silence, she managed to open the door. But again, the room was empty and dark. She then quickly went to check the bathroom. Also, there was no one in there. She suddenly realized something was very wrong, so she hurried out and locking the door behind her. By 9 p.m., all the students have returned from their evening classes, so it somehow made the dorm not that scary anymore. After the usual lights-out inspection, Mrs. Lee went back to her room and ready to rest. Just as she sat down, she heard a distinct sound of high heels on the stairs and stopping right outside her room. Because her room was next to the staircase, so the sound was very clear. Despite her fear, she needs to be responsible for the students' safety. So she opened the door and found no one was outside. But the high heel sound was clearly continuing up the stairs. She panicked and followed that sound, flashlight in hand, and saw a wooden chair being dragged around the corner. She was hurry up, and then she spotted a girl in a green long dress dragging the chair into the room 407. Mrs. Lee rushed over there, but the door was still closed. Realizing the girl had walked through the door without opening it, she felt deep chills. She immediately unlocked the door and burst in. All the girls were woken up, and she saw they were all in their pajamas. No one was in a green dress. She then quickly walked to the bathroom and finding it empty. When the girls asked her what happened, she didn't want to scare them, said it was just a routine check, and left. Confused and scared during her way back to her room, she tried to rationalize all the strange events. Suddenly, a girl's laughing sound broke her thoughts. She then looked up, saw a girl's face peering through the stairwell gap, eerily smiling at her. It was like playing a hide and seek with her. Mrs. Lee said she couldn't even think at that moment, rushing back to her room and locking herself in. She stayed awake at night, too terrified to sleep. And from then on, she always took a few students with her on inspections. Years later, Mrs. Lee was transferred to the administration office. And one day during a casual chat with her leader, she mentioned about the dormitory incidents. Her leader revealed that a few years ago, there was a girl had hanged herself in the room over a breakup, using a chair to reach the ceiling. When Mrs. Lee was asking which room, her leader went silent. Then Mrs. Lee understood his point. Never spoke of room 407 to anyone ever again. Therefore, be careful where you treat, especially when the night falls and the shadow grows long. Thank you for listening. I hope you like my video. Stay safe, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.